But all right. So going on to the last part, probably very happy news for a bunch of people in the country, especially yourself. I'll let you take the wheel in just a second. Sorry. So yeah, Dak Prescott finally extended. He's technically tagged, like you mentioned, but they did give him the extension, long-term extension. So good for him, good for his family. Glad that he got his long-term security and also the money that he wanted. But I forget, I think it's 125, 126 guaranteed.
126.
126. I think it's 1 million more than Tony Romo made his entire Cowboy career. Um,
Yep.
but regardless, I think it was 75 of that's guaranteed the first year.
Yeah, 75 million in the first year.
So
That is crazy.
I will say, like, regards to all this free agency stuff, not sure about the cap. I think it was very interesting because, as we all know, Adam Schefter he knows things, and he said that maybe this could be. I think he saw. Did you see the tweet where he
Yep.
said, it feels like Jerry knows about a marketing deal coming up, because I think this is very similar numbers. Basically, this contract was to what rumored that Dak wanted last year, but he didn't get it last year. So I'm assuming Jerry knows, okay, there's more money coming. We can give him this money. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'll just say my bit. Yeah, like I said, he deserves it. Dak's, maybe not a top three, four, five quarterback, but he's a top 10 quarterback. And once again, the team's built on the offense. And like we kind of mentioned with Jimmy Garoppolo, no other real quarterbacks out there to replace that you can get that can play at the same level as Dak. Now, yeah, maybe cheaper, but I don't think that. Once again, this is not a great defense, at least not now. Uh, and you have offensive weapons. Might as well bring in someone who already knows the system, already knows those guys. And once again, been a Dallas Cowboy since he got drafted. It just all the pieces made sense. So glad they got the deal done. I think it's a good deal for both sides. And I mean, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But go ahead, floor is yours. Thoughts on your boy getting extended?
First off, I was really happy. It's one of those things where, as a Cowboys fan, you love Jerry and you hate him at the same time. And so there's in most contract negotiations, I root for the player because Jerry just loves to hardball people. But the one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about the Cowboys is that Jerry caves every single time. So all the people who they would try to make jokes or come at me with like, oh well, Dak's leaving, Dak's not staying, all this kind of stuff. There was really maybe 2% of me that actually ever thought that Jerry would let Dak leave. Whether that was tagging him again and then he left after that, I don't know what it'd be, but I truly thought for sure Dak's gonna be the Cowboys quarterback next year. And the main reason is, I mean, look at historically, Jerry paid Jalen Smith. He's one of the highest paid linebackers in the league. Which that one wasn't controversial. That one just happened. It was very quiet. Jalen, he just got it. Demarcus Lawrence, though, controversial situation. It was contract year. He just put up a really good season with like 14 sacks that season before. He wanted big numbers. Everybody said he's going to leave. Boom. Jerry signs him to like $22.5 million a year, one of the highest paid defensive players ever. And he got all the money he wanted. All right. That happens. The Zeke situation, exact same thing. Really highly publicized because it's the Cowboys and it's Jerry Jones. And of course, it's going to be Zeke wants all this money. Jerry's not going to commit, blah, blah, blah. Zeke's going to Cabo, all this stuff. Boom, right before the deadline, Zeke gets signed, second highest paid running back in NFL history. Exact same thing with Dak. Really controversial, all this stuff. He got franchise tag last year, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, he gets signed. And Dak won in every single aspect of this deal. Dak got a no trade clause. He got a no tag clause, so they can't ever tag him again. He got the second highest paid contract in NFL history. He gets like 41 million a year, which I think is 1 million more than Watson, but obviously below Patrick Mahomes. And he got the most guaranteed money ever. And he got the 4 years. The Cowboys wanted five. Dak wanted four. And the reason he wanted four is because there is a TV deal that is going to be signed 4 years from now. And every time that happens, the cap rises dramatically for every team. And so Dak's going to want to cash in that year because those years, players get paid ridiculous amounts. Than the years after, teams have to really lower their spending because they spent way too much the season before. So Dak won in every aspect of this deal. Jerry did not win, outside of the fact that he got to keep his quarterback and keep Dak. So really happy for Dak, especially after the injury. My worst fear was that it would lower his value and he would not be able to get what he deserves because of the injury. But obviously, I think that even success and accomplishments aside, just the leader he is, the role model he is, the way that he carries himself as the quarterback of the Cowboys, which is in the spotlight for a lot of dumb reasons because of Jerry Jones. He's done A+ job at all of those things. So I'm happy that he got paid. Now, the way the contract is actually structured is really smart by Jerry, because it's he's only under contract for 10 years, but it's actually spread out over 6 years. So the first season, this season, he's getting $75 million, right? And everybody would think, well, they have no cap space anymore. But his deal actually only counts against the cap for 22 million of that, which is $15 million less than it would be if he was tagged. If he was tagged, that would be 37 million against the cap. This is why a lot of people were saying, well, they don't have the money to keep him. They completely did. It just depends on how they structure the deal. 22 million against the cap is so incredibly low. It's like they have a lot of room to work with in a year where they have lower cap space. Next year, where the cap should theoretically go up after we hopefully recover from COVID, um, it's only 33 million, which I think is what a lot of people were saying that he should have signed. You and once again, in the current market, that looks pretty team friendly. That's like I think that's what Aaron Rodgers is making. That's what Russell Wilson's making. Guys around that range,
Around that range, I think. Yeah, you're maybe a few mil more,
maybe a little
but
below.
you're
You're a little
about
more
that
somewhere.
range.
Yeah. So it's around that range in the second year. So once again, the cap should theoretically go up. His salary is naturally going to go up, but it's not at the big high level that's really going to hurt them. So they still have more room to work with next year, where they can make some more moves. Now the years after that, that's when it starts to hit you. It goes up to like 42 and 47. Um, but like you said in that Adam Schefter tweet, I think Jerry knows something that a lot of people don't, and that's probably what the estimated numbers are going to be because of that TV deal. Obviously, as him being an owner, he probably is in those negotiations. Well, maybe not, but he's probably informed at least on what the negotiations are like with the TV stuff, and so he probably had his guys crunch just number estimates of what the cap's going to look like over the next few years, and especially what it's going to look like with that TV deal. And I think Jerry knows it's going to rise a lot, and so 4 years from now, this deal could look like a bargain compared to potentially what other quarterbacks are going to be making. I mean, think about guys like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, what they could be cashing out on when those contracts run out. So, anyway, my rant over, my explanation over. I'm very happy for Dak. I'm happy he got done, because it would really suck if they got rid of him because jersey and I have a metal poster of him on my wall that I got like 6 months ago. So if they got rid of him right after I got that, that would really suck, and I would just forever remember what Dak Prescott meant to the Cowboys. Um, because I think there's an emotional attachment there that no other player on this team has, probably since like Witten and Romo. Anyway, so glad it happened. But I mean, I can't say all that stuff without talking about the exact same thing I said for Carson Wentz. It's time to prove it. Dak, you're getting paid, so the 8-8, the crappy season that we had this year, all these kind of things, which this year wasn't entirely his fault, but those kind of things, the excuses about they don't have a defense, blah blah, all that goes out the window because when you're getting paid that much, it's time to prove it. Aaron Rodgers doesn't get a pass for the crappy defenses he's had, so neither will Dak with the crappy defenses he's going to have. And that's not fair to the quarterbacks, but that's the way the criticism works. So, um, yeah, Dak, it's time for him to prove it. It's time for the Cowboys to get to winning.
Yeah, well, so I'm not gonna hold that against him. But I'll give him a
Well, we
pass.
won't. I still won't because I mean,
But
I
I know
I
what
think
you
our
mean.
defense is
The
atrocious. But like
Twitter
when you're getting
world.
paid that much money, the world's gonna say,
Yeah,
Dak, this is on you.
yeah. Well, the Twitterverse and everything definitely will be saying that. But yeah,
Cowherds of the world.
yeah. Oh gosh, I don't think I saw him. Anyway, but yeah, like I mentioned before, kind of you hit over everything. It's just a good deal for Dak, but for Dallas, more important, you keep your guy. Once again, I think a lot of teams would pay that much to know that hey, we got a top 10 guy for this long, still in the prime of his career, and like I mentioned before, they already invested. I know their O line is as good as it used to be, but both your tackles, you gave Amari that extension. He spent a first round pick on CeeDee Lamb. He extended Zeke. And then you still got Michael Gallup on the team. So yeah, it's just good to keep Dak. I mean, not much else I have to say on my end. I mean, that's pretty much wraps it up. It's just a good deal all around. Like I mentioned, not many other quarterbacks you will get. Dallas was in, I think you have 10. You said right. So you'd have to get, even if you wanted to draft a new quarterback, if
Yeah,
you move on for Dak, you'd have to draft a new. But then once you get him into your system, he hasn't been there for 4 years, so you really don't know. You know what you're kind of getting, but you don't fully know what you're getting as opposed to Dak, or you know where you're getting. So and he already has the relationship with the team, so there's just less transitionary stuff and things like that can get in the way. So yeah, overall good deal for him. Once again, good on. I will applaud Jerry on one thing. Didn't overpay too much. Like you mentioned, it's still a relatively short deal, so he's not. It's not a Mahomes deal, or I think what Watson he signed for 5 years. His initial contract was.
something around there.
So solid deal, and yeah. However, I do expect, especially if the cap doesn't rise significantly, uh, maybe a year from now, especially if it's not as successful season as you wanted, maybe Amari Cooper gets moved. Especially, or if Zeke doesn't have a good year this year, maybe just to free up more cap room. Those
Yep.
may be things in the future. Obviously, they'll wait and see. As for now, the team's looking real. Once again, the offense is looking pretty good. It's just we'll see what happens over anything else. But yeah. Anything else you wanted to mention regarding that?
Uh, I will add to anyone in Cowboys fandom who wanted Russell Wilson. Obviously, once again, I already thought that was unrealistic, but I mean, if we were to trade for Russell Wilson, that would mean number one, tagging Dak and then trading him, and it was not going to be straight up. If anyone thinks it was straight up, it was not going to be. We were going to have to add to get Russell Wilson, and that most likely means adding the 10th pick, maybe more. I don't actually know because
Yeah.
Russell Wilson he's better. He's won a Super Bowl. He's cheaper. All these kind of things, under contract, all that kind of stuff. Dag's on a tag, so they'd have to then re-sign him. There's just a lot that would go into that, and so it was unrealistic. And like you mentioned, Dak's been on the team. He understands the system. He knows Kellen Moore's offense. He knows the guys who he's playing with and their tendencies. And he's obviously the way that we saw that team react when he got hurt. Like he's their guy. He's their friend. He's their leader. All that kind of stuff. So to anyone who wanted Russell Wilson, I understand it because I love Russell Wilson. And if it was like a straight up Dak for Wilson deal and Dak it didn't work out and we could make it happen, I would have done it, even though it would have pained me because I like Dak more personally, just because he's my quarterback. But it was not going to be that way, and so not only do you get older at quarterback with Russell, although you do I think upgrade. Um, you have to lose assets that can immediately help you, like that 10th overall pick.
Yeah. So obviously, we'll see what they do with that. But I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for today. Now we will doing basketball later in the week. Probably